Still figuring this out.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. My name is Bella from Jump Consulting, and I'm so glad you're all here. Today, we are on a blab. So you're going to see, let's see, Vinny over here. He's in Staten Island from Camp Rough Rough. Camp Rough Rough. I was going to say Rough Bow. I knew that was wrong. And we've got Lori below me, and we've got Jenna down here in the other corner. And Jenna is from Muddy Paws, and so isn't Lori. And guys, today we're here to kind of blow the lid off of something that's very taboo in our industry. I know people get bit by dogs. It sucks, but it's a fact of life. Like, it happens. We want to try to make sure that it does not happen. But when this also happens and you have employees, you have to put in workman's compensation claims. The employee is hurt, like Lori is here. And we had this incident happen 2 weeks ago, and we're going to kind of take you through it. Lori's going to describe what happened on the pet sitter level. And then we're going to talk to Jenna, and she's going to tell us what happened as a business owner and what she did as a business owner. And then we're going to round it up with Vinny as a dog behaviorist and get his take on the whole thing to try to help educate everyone and try to help you either A, make sure this doesn't happen in your company, or B, God forbid, if it does, know what to do. Now, before we get started, I want to make it really clear that this entire conversation is all around employees. It is not independent contractors. If Lori was an independent contractor, we may be having a completely different conversation. But I want to make sure anyone listening out there knows that this applies to employees. And this is, thankfully, I hate to say it's double-edged sword, but one of the protections of having employees and workman's compensation to help this, because I'm pretty sure Jenna and Lori might not be on this blab here together if they weren't. So without further ado, Lori, welcome, and thank you so much for being here. Can you introduce yourself the best you can? I know it's still a little sore, and kind of tell us what happened that day.
Sure. I'm Laurie. I've worked for Jenna's company, Muddy Paws, since the very end of last year, beginning of this year. I walk several dogs a day. At this particular house, I was going to walk I believe it's a 14-week-old Boston Terrier. I had met the mom and the dog approximately 2 weeks ago, maybe 2.5 weeks ago. Puppy was adorable, no problems. When we went for the meet and greet, the mom said that they had I believe he's 6 years old, a yellow lab named Cooper that they typically kept upstairs locked in a bedroom when people came into the house because he had a history of like barking at windows and barking at the mailman and kind of thing. Never mentioned anything about having bitten, anything like that. Just said that he was kind of skittish around strangers. So there was myself and another girl, Walker, that were there. So I had suggested to the mom to let us meet him while she was there, because my thought was that rather he at least had met me before I came into the house than that he had no idea who I was and then met me. So anyways, we met, we patted him. He did bark initially, but then he was fine. We were playing with him. He seemed pretty, relatively chilled out. I went for the first time to walk the dog, and so she had said she was going to keep him shut in the bedroom when I came. The first time I went by myself, apparently her son forgot to shut the door, and he was roaming through the house. Barked, jumped, not on me, but just sort of jumped in the air, kind of kangaroo-ish. Barked, but didn't growl, didn't do anything. And within about 30 seconds, he came over, was fine. I patted him, took the other dog out. We came back. He barked again a little bit. I waited him out. He came to me, patted him. Everything seemed fine. This happened one other day where she had actually asked me if she minded if I left him out of the room where we seemed to be getting along. And I had said that was fine because my hope was that eventually I'd be able to take him for a walk as well. The day that this incident happened, I walked in the door just as usual. He kind of like ran up, but he'd typically stop like 3 feet away, jump around, bark. And he did that same thing. I leaned, kind of like leaned towards him a little bit. He walked over. I patted him on the head, said, "Hi, Cooper, I'm here to take out you, boo." I turned to the leash was like hanging in a cubby. and I turned to get the leash. I still don't know whatever happened to it, but I got the leash in my hand and I turned around and he was literally in my face. I mean, I didn't have an inkling that anything was happening. All I heard was snarl, growl, and then I just looked down and saw blood everywhere.
Oh my gosh. You must be terrified. So what did you do from there? Like, how did you get away?
Other than leaving the house looking like a murder scene, I ran into the bathroom and tried to like see what was going on. And I mean, by that point, there was just blood going everywhere. So then I went out to the kitchen to grab some paper towels, and he was just like lying on the couch like nothing had happened. Wow, just kind of sitting there looking at me. Mm-hmm. But at that point, I was like, I didn't want to stay in the house because where I was bleeding, and I just didn't know what to do. So I had went outside because my thought at that point was that I would drive myself to the doctors or whatever. But when I got outside and the blood was still running down my arms, I just figured at that point that I just called 911.
Yeah.
And
now, Jenna, at what point did you call Jenna?
I believe I texted her while I was waiting for the ambulance to come.
Okay.
She did. So I got a text, and I thought it was so casual, but yet so serious at the same time because the text is so casual. And I was like, this really just happened. And I couldn't get a hold of her for a while and just flew over to the house, and I must have just missed her.
Because naturally, by that point, my phone, I hadn't charged it like the night before, so it was kind of dying.
Oh, no.
And then when I was in the ambulance, I had no signal, and it ended up croaking on me while I was in the ER. So,
oh, my gosh. Talk about adding insult to injury.
So it was really hard to figure out what was happening and how severe it was. But we ended up speaking like much later in the day.
Yeah.
And it was pretty severe.
So when you went to the hospital, Lori, what kind of questions were they asking you?
To be honest, well, I sat in the hallway for over 2 hours because the hospital was so busy. And I finally flagged a nurse down because, like, I literally had blood running. I was holding gauze on my face, and the blood was coming through and going down my hands. And so they finally came and they just like slapped wet gauze on my face and literally tied a huge piece of gauze around the back of my head. And I sat there for another hour. I was there for 2.5 hours before they even brought me into a room to look at me.
Wow.
I mean, it was just like, oh, you got bit by a dog? Yeah. You know, and I mean,
like if it was like at work or anything like that?
They asked a couple questions, but they really didn't ask very much. While I was waiting, a police officer from the town actually came to the ER to ask me what had happened. Mm-hmm. And I explained the whole thing to him. And he had said that he tried to get into the house to see if the dog had tags. And he couldn't get in the back door because the dog was like freaking out and like lunging and growling at the back door. So he didn't even go inside. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. He was supposed to follow up with me. He left me one message. I've left him like 3, and he hasn't got back to me. So I don't kind of know what's going on with that.
So when you were at the hospital, what happened? Like, I mean, did they give you a tetanus shot? Did they no,
they just started sticking you
up? Like, how long were you there for?
I got to the hospital probably around 10 minutes of 11, and I think I actually got out of the hospital at about 3:15. Mm-hmm. I sat there for a long time, and luckily I had a tetanus shot last year. Prior to working for Jenna, I worked with special needs adults, and we used to have to get tetanus shot, like to keep them regular in case we got hurt by one of the individuals we worked with. So I had a tetanus shot, so that wasn't an issue. There was a small issue as to whether or not the dog. A couple people asked if I knew if the dog was up to date on his shots, and I said I really didn't know, but I assumed that he would have to be where they had a young puppy in the house and where Jenna had okayed the puppy to be walked. I couldn't think that, I wouldn't think that she would have accepted a puppy if the other dog in the house wasn't caught up or whatever. So they finally brought me in. My lip was literally in 3 pieces. I don't know if you can see, but this is all stitches literally goes from here in all the way down up, and then you can see this is all stitched there. You can see the bruise goes all the way up to my eye. Oh. That was a laceration that went down here. Now this was 9 days ago.
Yeah, yeah.
8 days ago. So, I mean, it's gotten a lot better. But it was 42 stitches. It took 2 people over an hour to stitch it up.
Oh, Lori, I'm so sorry.
Well, you know, I mean, unfortunately, it is what it is. I mean,
it sounds like you have an amazing, amazing person working for you, and
Definitely.
I mean, Lori, wow, you're just amazing, and I'm so happy that you're telling your story and putting it out there for everyone. Jenna, I want to go to you, and I want to find out. So you're a business owner. Clearly, you know, this isn't like something we necessarily like plan out for.
No.
And, you know, you're frazzled and you don't know what to do. And I learned of this story when you posted it in Vinny too, the private coaching group, you know, and you're like, oh my God, this just happened.
Yeah.
And so take it away. What happened on your end?
So I had just gotten her text that morning. It was last Wednesday morning. And like I said, it seemed so casual, but so serious at the same time. And I flew over there. It was like everything that was planned just went completely out the window. And it was more like, okay, how do we react to the situation? Is she going to be okay? Which I couldn't tell because I couldn't get a hold of her. But I knew that she had called 911, so she was heading in the right direction as far as that was concerned. Flew over to the house to see, I didn't even know, honestly, see if I could get keys, try to figure out how to cover the rest of her day, and I don't know, just kind of see what was going on.
Damage control.
I did see the dog at the back door because I wasn't sure if the puppy had been out and wasn't even thinking, and I went to the back door and the dog was going crazy, and I was like, yeah, I don't care about the puppy right now. It's going to have to just stay. So I got the keys, and I actually had looked for the keys in Laurie's car and saw her iced coffee sitting there totally untouched, and I knew that she was probably more concerned about that than she was anything else.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of humor, very little, but some in the situation. And then we just had to like figure out who can do what and just make the best of what was happening for the day to try to streamline the rest of the visits. Because Laurie does a lot of visits a day. So to cover for her at the last second obviously was a challenge in itself. And then figure out from there how long after, you know, she's going to be out. I knew she's going to be out for a while.
So what was it like when you called the Workman's Comp and when you did all that? What kind of
so that day went by in a flash. I wasn't even sure if I would be able to contact them because I hadn't really had a second all day. And everyone in the group was saying, call them right away. It looks better. Definitely call them. And by the time I actually was able to call them, it was 11 o'clock at night. Mm-hmm. And I just assumed I'd leave a message and hear from them the next day. I actually was able to speak to a live person, which is amazing. I never can get somebody on the phone ever. So that was crazy. So I guess really is just call whenever you can and, you know, as soon as you can. And if you can't get a hold of them, leave a message. And if you can, even better. So they had gotten the claim in that particular day. And then the claims rep called me the next day to go over all the details and get a little bit more information. And then the next day she had sent a wage request form to figure out, you know, the compensation part of that. So that's kind of where we're at this point. They've contacted Laurie, I believe, to follow up.
They called me Thursday morning. And so that was like literally the day after it happened. They called me and I was actually asleep when she had called, but I did call surprise, a few Percocets later, but I did call her back. I've spoken to her twice. I saw the plastic surgeon this past Monday, said everything was healing pretty good. Yesterday I had pus coming out of my lip. So I went back and they soaked my lip in hydrogen peroxide and then pulled a few of the stitches out and then chipped I had a scab that went the whole length of my lip in and out and they chipped that whole thing off. So now the inside part of my lip is all like open raw skin, but the scab was so tight and so thick that it was just, I was miserable. Yeah. They said I'll be out. I have to go back again Monday. I'm out at least until September 28th. They really don't know anything else past that. It depends on how things heal. There's one spot in my lip that the skin isn't coming together right, so they have to stay on top of that. Mm-hmm. And I'm still.
It's my understanding that from having been through this myself, that for those of you watching who have never known what, Workman's Comp does, correct me if I'm wrong and feel free to chime in here, ladies, but it's kind of neat because in a horrible situation where you don't know what to do, you have this third party that kind of comes in, acts as a liaison. Jen is able to go forward and keep running operations in the business. Lori gets the support that she needs and the attention and medical care and lost wages, a portion of lost wages and things. And everyone's able to, Workman's Comp really steps in and helps you out. Has that been your experience, or do you have anything to add about that?
For me, yes, because it's like I gave them all the information and now it's in their hands, and then they're coming to me if they need additional things, because I have no idea how to navigate through the situation. So it's been a huge help to have someone else that deals with this.
Right. So like if you didn't have it, you have no idea what you'd be doing right now, right?
Yeah, no.
And
Lori,
I've never had anything like this happen. Mm-hmm. So I was shocked that they called the next day, because from what I've heard from other people that have, been hurt at work, or sometimes it's like a runaround for weeks before they even get somebody to talk to them. And I mean, within 48 hours, I had not only heard from the representative, but I had also got a call from a nurse there who's also following.
Right, she actually contacted me too.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll even be assigned a caseworker, Lori. I
have one person who's in charge of the case plus the nurse.
And that's just magnificent, because instead of, Jenna, could you imagine if Lori's calling you and she's saying, well, I need to make this appointment, but they can't get me in and I don't know what to do. And she's looking at you and you're like,
yeah,
so ladies, I am so sorry this has happened. But I'm so grateful that you're here telling your story and letting everyone know. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Vinny. Vinny, I would love to know. I see you've been writing notes and nodding your head and couple of, oh my God, looks. I'm
trying to make it as simple as possible, because it's hard to give a whole behavior thing in 10 minutes.
Right.
But there's definitely a lot of things that we all could do. Now, when I talk, I always look at situations in context as a trainer and a behavior consultant. And by the way, we're behavior consultants. A behaviorist is someone that holds a PhD.
Say that again? A behavior consultant versus a
behaviorist is a person that holds a PhD. That's very important, because the public is lost on that.
That's good important for my show notes. I'm going to type that in right now.
The industry to also educate this. And I would suggest all owners implement some kind of training program on simple things like body language and different calming signals of dogs, which would help in this situation. Now, where to start? I mean, for I'll explain what I do with every dog that I meet. My first question is, does the dog have a bite history? That's my first question. Mm-hmm. Usually, an owner will be honest, but sometimes they're not. So in this situation, I would say it's a little etchy. Maybe they weren't honest, because this dog is 6 years old. To bite like that, this dog has nipped or ass snapped at someone before.
It's come out since, nothing to this extent, but she didn't tell about 2 different instances until it happened.
Wow.
She somehow seemed to forget about those, and now it's coming to light. She's like, oh, and then there was that other time.
Yeah, maybe if we ask, first question,
right,
has this dog ever bitten before or ass snapped or showed any aggression to any human, unfamiliar human, because we're unfamiliar coming in. So usually they would be honest. The second thing is body language. I mean, we saw, the owner said the dog was skittish. So when we come in and we met this dog, the dog was barking. So you would have to see the barking or hear it. Was it an aroused bark? Was it a wolf? Was it an over-aroused, excited dog? So that would also help you. And this dog is probably fearful of unfamiliar people. So what I would do is, first of all, I wouldn't even meet this dog if you're not a trainer or a behavior consultant, because that's obviously what the result is. Mm-hmm. I would have never petted that dog. I would have never initiated anything with that dog. No eye contact. If I walked into a house and this dog was loose. So if the dog came up to me and sniffed, see, there's so much to give. I would turn sideways and lean on my side. I would always communicate with this dog, I'm no threat. So if you lean into a fearful dog, that's actually moving into their space, so it's actually punishment. And a fear biter, I'm trying to tell you my point of view, but it's so easy for us because we do it all the time. But if you implement a training program into your business weekly, slowly, so they learn it, this will become natural for you. A fear biter, when you come into their space and then you turn around, something snaps in the dog's head and says, wow, how did this person get into my space? So when she went for the leash and turned around, so now this dog is, this human, unfamiliar person is in my space. When she turned around, I'm going to say the dog just bit, obviously, and that's a fear biter. It's a very known thing. Unfortunately, a lot of people, the public doesn't know that. And me, I would have probably never been in that situation knowing this dog's history, because I would always back out of a fearful dog because I know. You know what I mean?
I think if I had known a little more of the history, there's a big difference between this dog who's had 2 serious issues as opposed to he's a little nervous around strangers.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, the information wasn't.
Maybe that was a chance. What I'm hearing Vinny say is to press a little bit more.
Every dog you meet, no matter if it's a Lassie, a Toto, I don't know how old you people are, but every dog you meet, always treat it as all dogs could bite. That's the way I come into every grief, because every grief for a dog is new. Like if a dog grew up with children, they're not good with children because every situation, every person is a new, relationship. So I treat every dog as it can bite. And then I read the body language and take the history, and then I know how to approach this dog. So this dog, I would have never probably petted for, to be honest with you, I work with dogs like that, probably I wouldn't pet it for a week. I have a dog downstairs right now on boarding. She has a bite history. She's here the second time for 2 weeks. I just pet her on the head a little bit because I know she has a bite history. I would never force myself on her, and I'm always communicating with her with my body. Our subtle movements are so much for dogs. And just a little body language, if you train your employees, like a little workshop, find a trainer in your area, a qualified trainer, and they make it fun for you. They teach you these little calming signals in body language. It's appeasement, displacement behaviors, calming behaviors. We label it different things, but we'll keep it fun for you. So if you ever walk into a situation like this, you know how to handle it. If you get caught in a situation like this, you know how to get out. Also food. I always walk around food. I mean, I would have tossed food and got out of the house if I had to.
I mean, the day before that I was there, I was giving him treats and we were playing in the living room. Like I was throwing balls, he was chasing them, I was giving him treats, had him sit for me. He was, and that's why I think it just struck me as so weird because it was fine one day.
Fearful dogs that are unfamiliar of, that have issues with unfamiliar people, it takes a while to build a relationship with them. It could take weeks. This dog will probably take weeks for you to gain a relationship. And my definition of a relationship is a reinforcement history. So you would have to do that training, sits downs to build a relationship. And it can take 2 weeks. I work with dogs that takes months before I can even pet them because they don't trust me. And if I turn around, if you challenge them or anything, they would bite you if they have a bite history. Yeah. Dogs like that are very, very tricky. The best thing is for you guys, ask them, does this dog have a bite history? And if they say, what they tell you, issues with skittish, that's a sign, that's a red flag right there.
He just told me when we met him that he was skittish around strangers and that if, when the mailman came, he'd bark and bark at the window. And that was why they would separately.
The dog is friendly. It doesn't have bite histories. They're not worried. They would never be locking that door.
Right.
They know something. That's a red flag.
Yeah, definitely.
And even if it does have red flags, always meet the dog outside, not in the house. You guys know that, right? Always take the dog on neutral territory, even up the block. There's ways to do greets with dogs. I greet a lot of dogs that I have. Unless they're really a Lassie, they're lovable. I would meet them in the house. Most dogs I meet outside. They want to come outside, and I do a power walk, and I start doing my body language, reading the dog. I let them come up and sniff me. I don't ever. A lot of us will probably think, let me show the owner that I love dogs. You know, start hugging them, kissing them. I never do that. I know I can get, you know, if the dog's a little skittish, I can get bit. I also hold the collar of every unfamiliar dog because I've seen a lot of broken noses. You know, if you go down pet the dog, oh, the head. I always hold the collar. There's a lot of things that you guys can implement with your employees slowly and fun, and it helps a lot to avoid these situations.
Whose pup is barking?
That's my daughter.
Okay. Not mine. That's all right, Vin. I want to fly you out to Scottsdale. So Vinny, one of the most important things I'm hearing as I'm listening to this from like as a pet sitter who's never experienced this before, and I'm kind of hearing that while it's good, a lot of us have these dog behavioral handbooks that we give like during orientation or something. There's a pet sitting company / training in New Jersey, Endless Possibilities. They've got this awesome book. I love it. It has like pictures of the different body languages to look for. What I'm hearing is that it's not enough to just say, here you go, it's in training, you took the test, okay. What I'm hearing from you is that it's really important as business owners to keep reinforcing this training for our staff and to know the proper red flags to hear. Oh, my dog's skittish, or oh, my dog needs me to introduce you to him first. Well, why? Like those kind of things. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, absolutely. I would do workshops once a month, every 3 months.
Yeah.
I would send them emails of just little things, and you know, to learn body language. There's so much you could do to avoid this. Just to
in general,
that would help.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. But in general, we don't try to take on these kind of dogs. Like this wasn't an actual customer, so like it opens up a whole can of worms that we don't really want to get involved in. I mean, I certainly don't.
But unfortunately, we get put into situations that if we knew just a little bit, it would avoid the bite.
No, definitely.
Or
the
first
one is a bite history. I mean, that would have avoided everything.
Yeah.
Maybe and if I had known that says, "Oh, we have to put the dog upstairs in a room," it's like red flag, you know. Like,
if I had known, I wouldn't have turned my back on him. You know, because when I turned
your back on a fearful dog, back out
and turned around,
take back steps. As soon as you turn around, you ever turn around, dogs go for the ankles. Those are fear biters.
Right. I think based on what Lori was told by the owner is that once the dog, when someone comes to the door, he gets really aggressive. But once they're in and he feels like, okay, that's how she was presenting it. And that she thought she was good.
That's a red flag right there. I would never even meet that dog in the house because he's in his territory. And he's confident there.
Led us to believe that it was locked up more because she was afraid he was going to get out when we walked in the back door to get the puppy, as opposed to he was locked upstairs because he was going to eat us, you know? I mean, I think she kind of shaded over a few things. And I mean, you meet people, you want to believe that they're telling the truth.
Or maybe I always look denial, you know?
I'm always looking at it as a trainer, and I have a lot of experience in it. So an owner telling me that, I know this dog has issues. So I would meet this dog outside if I wanted to meet it. Because obviously he has issues. We never want to see a dog get aroused. It's arousal, excitement, aggression. So we always try to keep a dog calm. If this dog has issues when people come in, I would never meet that dog inside. Never. I would be outside and doing a normal meet and greet. We call it in trainers' world. So you could just implement normal meet and greets with all your dogs. Do you meet all your dogs in the home, or do you take them outside on neutral ground?
Most of them inside.
Yeah.
Now you would set everybody up for success, the dogs and humans, if you take it outside. It's a simple step, because now the dog is outside, and make the dog go outside 6 to 10 minutes before you get there. So you get all that excitement out of it.
Yeah, there was one house when I went to meet the dog, and he was growling when I walked in, and I had asked the owner if we could go outside because I felt like he was really overwhelmed. And I had, 11 dogs that day, plus my own. I had been at my sister's house, and I have 2 cats, so I figured I smelled like a walking kennel.
I hate to cut you off, but watch this. If you took a good history, does this dog have a bite history? Does he ever show any observable behaviors of aggression? They say yes. You would never walk into the house. You never want to see that behavior. Because now your first association with this dog, you're going to build a relationship, is not good. So you take it outside and you set everybody up for success. your first association is growl to the dog. You know, unfamiliar person, scary. You could just take that outside, a simple step.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an easy change.
Then
yeah, that's what I'm saying. A lot of my mentors kill me for this. I get too technical, but I try to keep it simple. Just the simple things.
Hi, Brad.
So much.
Then how can we get a hold of you if any pet sitters are listening to this right now and they want to ask you a question, or they want to see who you know in their area, or I don't know, you're a great wealth of information. How can we?
Your group, I'm in there. Camp Rough Rough. I have a forum. Text me. I'm always answering questions.
So Camp Rough Rough.
I love doing what I do, and trying to set humans and canines up for success. You know, to avoid this, because now unfortunately, we always seem to blame it on the humans. So we set this dog up for failure and the humans. So unfortunately, this dog might get put to sleep.
Yeah.
Where we could have avoided that by implementing things, easy things.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does.
I'm not blaming anybody. It's just the public is curious on behavior.
Well, one of the things I was surprised, though, too, is that everybody seemed to be shocked by the fact that it was a lab that bit me. And it was like, but if it had been a pit bull, I would have been on the freaking 6 o'clock news.
Yeah. You definitely would have. So
but
stupid.
Because it was a lab, it was like, oh, well, what did you do wrong?
Well, that's the meteor. Any dog could bite. We always remember that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Crazy.
And they usually bite when we put them in wrong situations. Mm-hmm. And this situation, unfamiliar person should have never been in a house with this dog.
Yeah.
Personally, I always have a leash on a dog that has a bite history. It's totally different when a dog is on leash and off leash.
Yeah.
So
if I'm meeting a dog in a trainer's world, I would have the owner walk, and I would probably walk next to her and grab the leash, and now the dog's going to look up and say, whoa, who's got the leash now? And it's totally different when he's off leash.
Then before we go, what are some other common phrases we might hear as a pet sitter to kind of raise those red flags? So we talked about my dog's a little skittish. What other kind of red flags do we look for?
Skittish, fearful. You have to come up, not that you have to. I have a list of questions I ask every dog, and the first one's bite history and the observable behavior, because we always go by observable behavior, what we see in different contexts, because the environment drives behaviors. So we ask them, you ever seen any signs of aggression? You know, growls, excitement, barking, air snacks, and how does your dog feel of an unfamiliar person coming in the house? These are all questions you should ask every single time and see what they say. Oh, my dog is beautiful. He has no problems with people. That's a good sign. And then I'll take it from there. Is it a big dog or a little dog? I'll see. If it's big, I might say, all right, I'm going to meet him outside just to set everybody else to success. Just, I don't want to get big. I
like the way you phrase that, too. And I think that's a great way to phrase it with clients. Like, hey, meet me outside. I'll be there at 4 o'clock. Take your dog outside at 3:55. I want to make sure we get everyone set up for success.
That's my line. I love that one because it's true. If you set humans and canines up for success, it's a win-win situation.
I see can be a graphic quoting Vinny with that phrase right now.
Yeah, I use it a lot.
Yeah. Well, guys, listen. I wanna wrap it up. Any final words that anyone has, and then I'll let everyone know how they can get a hold of you or contact you.
Most important thing: does this dog have a bite history? I would ask every client that. Everyone. And then the next one: any observable behavior of aggression. You have to ask that for every dog.
And it's not just enough to have a little.
You'd be surprised how many dogs are in households that bite. You'd be surprised.
And it's probably not enough to just have a little.
I see all the ones that have problems. You're seeing all the good ones. Probably.
Yeah.
Most of them. Try to see them.
Yeah.
But all dogs could bite. If you put a friendly, happy dog, there's redirect bites that any dog will bite. When a dog is digging or excited or barking at another dog, you touch him, turn around and bite. We call that a redirect bite. Any dog would do that. So that's another good thing to know. Say you're walking a dog and he sees a squirrel, he gets excited. I would never touch that dog. Just turn around and bite. Everybody experienced a redirect bite before? I've seen it. So you're working with good dogs.
I've seen it between dogs, but not between people and dogs.
Yes, when you see two dogs barking at a fence or in a house,
and then they go at it.
Same thing with a human if you go in there and touch the dog.
Yeah.
Vinny, you it sounds like, I know in a lot of our online systems we have like a box. Like, has your pet ever bitten?
My pet?
Yes or no? But what I'm also hearing you say is that it's important to actually ask during that consultation and then ask about those other questions that you mentioned.
Correct.
It's not enough to just tick a box.
I ask. I take a whole history report of a dog every time a client calls me.
Yeah.
Just to get an idea of how I'm going to introduce me, or in your case, to the dog. Most of the time, 90% of the time, I'm meeting outside. And I have the client, I'm outside, or come outside, I'll be there in 5 minutes, walk the dog. So, every dog comes out excited. When a dog could bite, especially if it has issues, you let them take it. So they calm down, and then we do a meet and greet, which I usually do a parallel walk with each dog, no matter how the dog is.
Okay.
And then you can start reading the dog right there. If he looks friendly, the wagging, shaky thing. Once you learn body language, the dog is good. He's a little leery, you go slower. I walk and the client comes up behind me. That's how we do meet and greet. And then I watch the dog. I never even give a dog eye contact. That's very important. Now, Lori mentioned she leaned into the dog. You know how scary that must have been for that dog? That's the worst threat for a dog. Worst threat.
Yeah.
That's when dogs really get into a fight. Like
they always approach sideways.
He wasn't barking, and he was standing there with his tail wagging.
See, this is all part of body language. Good question.
Yeah.
Tail wagging means nothing. All this means
a typical dog wag,
This was it high? High tail?
Probably like maybe 3/4 up.
When you
not all the way high, but definitely not down by.
If you learn a little body language, you have to learn to read the whole body, because this means the dog is aroused. That's all it means. Doesn't mean it's happy. Happy means when you come home and your own dog is doing the whole body wiggle.
The body wiggle.
This is not happy.
Yeah.
This means it's aroused.
I love that. Jenna, do you have any closing thoughts as we wrap this up?
Just a lot to think about in changing,
It's not changing, implementing.
Well,
slowly.
a little bit.
Slowly.
I try to get the customers to talk to us to volunteer information as I'm asking them questions, but now I'm going to ask them pointed questions, point blank.
I think that's the most important.
I like meeting them outside, though. We'll definitely be able to implement that immediately in the bite questions.
So. Yeah, that's the easiest one to implement.
Yeah.
That's so important.
And then we can just weed them out from the beginning and not have to worry as much, and then obviously put everything else in place.
I would come up with questions and then tweak them whenever you can, whenever you feel you need to tweak them, add, take out.
Right.
That's the way I would do it. This way you know what you're walking into, and you're not walking into a bite situation, or we're putting a dog into setting people up for failure, dogs and humans. We're not walking into that situation. It would help a lot.
Okay.
Trying to get all the employees to give their input to what they think, so we're not missing anything from anyone else's perspective. So that'll be really helpful, I think.
Sure.
Yeah. That's a good point. The communication between staff, because someone might have some valuable pieces of information.
They all have had input that's been really helpful, which is great.
Yeah. Fantastic.
You asked about the behavior that we were just talking about with your employees, and probably 90% of them, wouldn't even notice. That's why it's quality change. It's so important to us to educate the public, because it would help so many situations.
Yeah, definitely.
This has been
some of them it's easy to recognize, and some of them it's like you just got so jaded and you think everyone's so happy all the time because you're used to it that you miss certain things.
When you're walking a dog, how many people just run up to you, especially a puppy, want to pet the dog?
Oh yeah,
a lot of people
with puppies we don't worry as much. With the other dogs, I don't.
Yeah.
Vin, you should almost do like a blog on like the 3 most common myths, you know, like a tail wagging doesn't mean the dog's happy, you know?
Believe it or not, all this information is all over the place. The public, for some reason, it's not grasping in the public. We don't know why. We try.
Yeah.
We're shouting from the rooftops. Unfortunately, it takes a bite to get people started. You know, there's a whole animal behavior is amazing. You know, you learn a few things.
It's fascinating.
You know, it's a different species. You know, unfortunately, dogs bite, and we're growing them up wrong from breeding to socializing. This dog lab probably wasn't socialized well when it was a puppy. That's why it has these issues.
So let's challenge everyone that's watching this to really step it up a notch in their own company and within themselves, and seek out a behaviorist or consultant in their area.
A behaviorist is a PhD. That's hundreds of dollars an hour.
to really help, because I think the biggest thing about this is that ongoing training. Get someone to help you, because it's not enough to just throw a manual at someone and forget about it for a couple of years. That it's ongoing, refreshing communication with your staff, finding out what their observations are, finding out what you know, all the red flags are with ways that you can interview a client, and a great way is to meet them outside, you know, if there seems to be a potential issue or whatnot. So you guys, thank you so much for your time today. We could probably talk for another 2 hours, but I'm going to cut it down. You can catch us in the group on Facebook. I own a pet sitting company with staff. You can go ahead and Google Camp Rough Rough and Vinny. You can find Jenna on her soon-to-launch new amazing website at Muddy Paws. And Lori, thank you so much for being brave enough to come here, share your story, and hopefully, you know, help educate people out there. Like, this is what could happen. Look at me and look at what could happen. So you guys, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.